Needed a pair of these to drive a brand new car. But this may not be a car even at all. It is called the X Bow and is built by Austrian motorcycle manufacturer KTM. And yes, you can own it and you can drive it on Australian roads. Well, it's not an easy or an elegant process getting into this little thing either. And nor is it flattering once you're inside. It literally comes with nothing. No radio, no aircon, no boot, not even a cup holder. And yet it costs just under $170,000. Yep, for the same price as a Nissan GT-R, you get a car without a roof. And windscreens are for wimps, obviously. It's also not an easy process to get this thing started. In fact, there's a bit of a pre-flight check. You have to press the starter button in the middle, wait for this little screen in the center of the console here to go off its service mode, basically checking all the diagnostics of the car. It comes up with a question, ready to race? Then you have to press mode, and then with your foot on the brake, press the starter button again, in gear, and off you go. It's probably not the best getaway car, but it does promise to be a lot of fun. Under its exoskeleton is a lightweight carbon fibre tub designed by Italian race car specialist Dallara. And hanging out the back is an Audi-sourced 2-litre turbo engine that produces 220 kilowatts and 420 newton metres and drives the rear wheels through a 6-speed manual gearbox. Considering it weighs just under 800 kilograms, KTM says the X Bow can slingshot from 0 to 100 kilometres an hour in just 3.9 seconds. Well, the turning circle is absolutely rubbish and it's got no power steering, so you certainly couldn't go down to the shops in one of these things and just pick up a carton of milk or a loaf of bread. It's not terribly convenient. You feel fully exposed out on the open road. There is nothing separating you from the traffic or the rain. You wouldn't want to follow a truck in this thing. I'll tell you, sand and rocks hurt at 80 kilometres an hour. Well, it's not very comfortable at the best of times, and it becomes obvious pretty quickly that driving around without wearing goggles or a helmet isn't the way to go. And let me tell you, the taste of a tarmac cocktail, a mix of bugs, grime and exhaust fumes, is more toxic than intoxicating. And driving in the rain, even a light shower at 80 kilometres an hour is a painful experience. It's like running headfirst into a barrage of liquid bullets. There's also no rear view mirror. Instead, you have to rely on these outboard ones, which you can't adjust if they're not in the right position. Not terribly convenient, this car. Well, apart from having no power steering, it's actually surprisingly easy to drive this thing. The clutch is light, the gear shift is slick, and there's plenty of low rev urgency from the engine that you can just potter around at about 1500 RPM, and it's not too bad. You know, the suspension is reasonably compliant as well, and that means you can use it in everyday situations around the burbs, but it's not really designed for that. It just means you can. The bumps that it's riding are literally transferred through to your body. You can even see how the suspension's working. That push rod is going into the damper right in front of my eyes here, and you can hear everything, every mechanical element of the car. Like you can hear that linkage of the gear shift right behind your ear. The whole perception changes when you tap into what this car is meant to be and what it's meant to do. It is like a motorcycle. It's meant to be thrilling and fast. It's not meant to be full of creature comforts and luxuries. My God, this thing, when you're up it for the rent, it is phenomenal. Now, this car isn't made for commuting in peak hour traffic or tootling up to the shops. This is a play toy for weekend warriors, a car made for the racetrack or a smooth mountain pass. It is almost literally a four-wheeled superbike. And you feel alive in it. It's like really agile, and you only need small, fine movements through the steering wheel because otherwise it feels really twitchy, and its mid-engine layout is going to spin you around like a top if you're too aggressive with it. It literally is the closest thing you could get to an open-wheeler race car for the road. Now, the brakes have huge power to them, but you have to be mindful that they don't have ABS or there's no traction control, because it does feel as though this can spit you into the hedges at any minute. And because you're not surrounded by a cabin or a roll cage, you kind of feel a bit vulnerable too. There are plenty of things wrong about the crossbow that severely limits its appeal to nothing more than a fair weather play toy. But for those moments, driving it on a twisty section of road or a billiard smooth racetrack on a warm and sunny day, there are very few machines that come close to delivering the kind of unfiltered thrills and telepathic engagement between man and machine that the KTM does. It's also very, very fast. Stomp on the accelerator in the lower gears and the engine ferociously builds turbo boost, lighting up the back tyres as the limited slip diff scrambles to harness the sudden input of power. In isolation, each of the mechanical elements requires plenty of finesse to work properly, but in the right environment they all harmonise to make the crossbow a thrilling, challenging and rewarding piece of machinery to drive. You just need to check the weather report before you take it out. Well, this thing is about as ridiculous a car as you could ever get. And despite all of its flaws, and let me tell you, there are plenty of them, but just like a motorcycle, the KTM Crossbow is the distilled essence of pure motoring fun.